So I feel like this is where we start getting into the more gimmicky cups. And the reason I say that these are gimmicky cups is for two main reasons. The first one is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of these next cups have ever been the icon for a cup, if that makes sense. Obviously you have, the mushroom cup, the shell cup, banana cup, special cup, that kind of thing. That's kind of always been the iconic little icons for the cups throughout a bunch of the older Mario Karts, and I feel like now we're reaching into territory that, at least not that I can think of off the top of my head, that there aren't any cups that have the same labels to them. Because I don't think we've ever had an egg cup until this game. I might have to go and look back at Mario Kart World to see if they have a cup labeled the egg cup, because I can't remember off the top of my head if they do or not. But the other reason why I kind of say these are the gimmicky cups is because they start introducing a lot of, clear third party, or I guess not technically third party, but other series outside of the Mario genre into tracks. For instance, not really as much in this cup necessarily as maybe the other ones, because you have the Animal Crossing cup as well as the Legend of Zelda themed cup, and the final course has a track that's specific to said game. But in this cup, there isn't one necessarily like that, because unlike those two cups that I just mentioned, Villager and Link and our playable characters in this, but the next race that we're going to is going to be based on Excite bikes. And then the last race of this cup is F-Zero, one of the F-Zero races, because there's another one. So I think it's very just kind of unique and different, and I definitely don't think the special cups, these kind of more, gimmicky feeling cups, in my opinion, is a bad thing or anything like that. I actually think that a lot of the stages, offer a lot of unique twists, and so it makes it honestly, fine in my opinion. But it's just kind of interesting, because thinking back on it, it's in a bunch of the Mario Karts, you kind of realize that it's they use kind of the same markers a lot of the time for their cup icons, and I've kind of, just gotten so used to it, because, what would be a Mario Kart without a designated special cup and a mushroom cup? But then when we start getting into a lot of the DLC tracks, which, will be coming a little bit, later at this point, because after this one we've still got 3 more of the normal listed ones before we get to the DLC ones. But kind of where I was going with that is just that the DLC ones have a lot of unique icons that I don't think have been used before. Like I said, it's been a bit since I've played World, so I would have to check the icons, because honestly I can't remember off the top of my head what icons they use for their cups, but I know there's always mushroom and special. But I think, you know, when we get to the DLC and maps, they also kind of have that same unique trait, but they kind of don't have as much theming per se, I would say, as how like these, I guess more just the last two cups specifically, you know, having the Animal Crossing and the Legend of Zelda themes so heavily attached to them. But still, I think there is a lot of really fun options in terms of DLC courses that is coming up, and I think a bunch of the icons, you know, and kind of makes sense. I feel like some of them are, they oddly feel like, you know, a bit of a stretch, but then you have some like literally the last cup in the DLC cups is the Spiny Shell cup, which, you know, wow, I don't remember, you know, ever seeing one like that in any other games. It still, you know, makes sense, because, yeah, I mean, come on, Spiny Shells and Mario Kart, it's basically, you know, what feels like half the memes of Mario Kart are based on, because we've all been there. You play it on Mario Kart, yeah, you definitely understand the pain of getting blue shelled. It's happened to us all the time. But kind of going back to some of the races, you know, like I was saying, you know, I don't think any of these tracks are necessarily bad or anything like that. But I will say that I feel like, especially Egg Cup specifically, I don't play a lot of these races all that often. Not because I think they're like bad or anything, but I feel like they just I feel like it's kind of like every time, you know, I boot up like Mario Kart, there's always the specific tracks and it's like, oh, I gotta play this. And I don't know how you guys set it up, but when I play with other people, we've kind of adopted the style of, instead of, you know, doing a designated Grand Prix, we set the custom amount of races to the highest amount possible, and then, you know, alternate choosing maps, basically just taking turns from one player to the other, and then we usually end on Rainbow Road as just the final map, some variant of Rainbow Road just to kind of kick it off at the end. And that's the way that we kind of do it. We don't really go into like the Grand Prix menus or anything like that and pick from there. And I think it's kind of just convenience, because at this point it's like I feel like when I play with people, at least, it's, you know, meant to be just more about fun. It's not really as competitive. And so it's more about just, you know, playing all the races that you want to race through. Obviously, you know, you do whatever it takes to get first, but at the same time, I think, you know, it's just to avoid having to go back to the menu after, you know, every 4 races, choose characters again, etc., and all that stuff, because I don't know about you, but a lot of times when it comes to like Mario Kart racers, I have like 2 characters that I kind of go back and forth with, so a lot of the times, you know, if I choose a character for the day, I'm pretty much set on my character, but I can definitely understand how the play style that, you know, me and the people I play with is definitely, you know, could be considered, you know, a bit weird, not kind of the normal play style that, you know, maybe most people are used to. But a lot of it also has to do with the fact that whenever we do some like multiplayer Mario Kart stuff, we also do like playing specifically the mode that we end up playing the most is the Renegade Roundup mode, because I think personally it's kind of, in my opinion, I think a very underrated mode and honestly a really fun mode, because I think, you know, the classic, you know, battle modes are always good. You got Balloon and Coin, and those are, you know, classics. But I do kind of, you know, just like the concept of the cops and robbers type game mode that Renegade Roundup is. I think it's a very, you know, unique kind of game mode. And honestly, I think it's just, you know, a fun concept, and you know, there's a certain fun feeling, I feel like, of being the last person on your team that isn't caught yet, and kind of, you know, being the hero that has to save everybody, or kind of vice versa, you know, being the person that saves the team by catching the robber before they're able to get the cage and then like free everybody. So I'm like I feel like it's a very, you know, unique style that really they haven't brought back or had any kind of mode like it since. But I mean, to be fair, it was introduced to Mario Kart 8. They've had, you know, one installment since then, so it's not like they don't have time to do so. But I think in World, if I'm not mistaken, it's just, you know, Coin and Balloon Battle again, which, you know, are the classics. Kind of going, you know, on the battle modes real quick before I end is, I did really like the one in Double Dash where you got all of the bomb-oms and then just blasted each other. That was also a really fun, like, gimmicky game mode that I think they've kind of brought something similar back to it a couple of times. But anyway, that was the Egg Cup. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.